the eligibility. Eligibility. The farmland must have a minimum combined lot size of no less than 75 acres of contiguous land and common ownership. And B, the entirety of the farmland shall be located within an RU3, RU4, or CR5 zoning district. C, the farmland shall have access and egress and contain the minimum improved from farmland on the town or the state roadways. Indeed, the farmland has been in agricultural use and production for the previous 5 years, consecutive years, and gross sales income from the farmland not less than $10,000 a year, as verified by IRS. And there's a bunch of different ways that can be done. The Farm Overlay District Floating Zone, or FOD, shall only apply to those qualifying parcels that the farm owner seeks an application on. You may own more land than that, but this is just what he's going to see. The agricultural operations of farmland shall be the primary use of the farm operation. And finally, notwithstanding the minimum setback required by Section 7(6), the town council may grant a variance of the minimum setbacks required by the chapter utilizing the criteria. And that is the eligibility. And then I was going to hand it over to Bill DePasquale, our town planner. We'll get the report from the planning board because we did send it to the planning board for review.
Thank you, Madam President, honorable members of the Town Council, the general public. My name is William G. DePasquale. I'm your town planner. You do have two memorandums in your package. One is from myself to the planning board, and that's an assessment of whether or not the applicant's eligibility is consistent with the law that's on the books. And it also has a component of comprehensive plan consistency. The second memorandum is actually from the chairwoman of the planning board and myself to this honorable body as to the eligibility criteria and whether or not the applicant does or does not meet it. Before I get into the actually memorandum, I just kind of want to rewind just a bit because how we got here is pretty interesting and something I think the town should be lauded for. The town did express their interest in having a comprehensive plan for the town that's consistent with not only the local government approval, which is this town body, but with input from the public and approval from statewide planning. In 2024, as you remember, we do have an approved comprehensive plan entitled Exeter 2044 Comprehensive Plan. Within that comprehensive plan, it's a Bible, if you will, for this town in terms of its growth for the next 10 to 15 years. Within that Exeter comprehensive plan, I must look and I must bring forward a application's consistency with said plan. In my comprehensive plan analysis, I found 22 direct sites as to the ability of this town to support land uses that are supportive to farming. And it's very interesting that in Exeter 2044, that there are specific sites, and in this case, a specific goal, and that's goal 12.2, which is located on 1249 in the land use section, that asks us to re-examine regulations to provide accessory use options to enhance the financial stability of agricultural and forest lands. That recommendation is actually a goal, and that was brought forth to the town council. The town council considered in the public hearing the initiation of a farm overlay district that would protect and enhance the values of farming. As we all know, farming in the state of Rhode Island in particular is very difficult because the value of the property is better left for development. And with this high-density development that we've been seeing not only here, but throughout the state, there's a real possibility that these farms, if they're not financially viable, will become housing developments. So it is a choice a difficult choice that towns have to make. I will say that we're proud that throughout our comprehensive planning process, that we actually heard from the public. And these are some of the quotes that are actually going to be from the comprehensive plan. That one of the biggest future challenges cited by the people of this great town is the loss of farmland and open space. And that's actually replete throughout this document. And let me read something. Long-term economic viability of rural farm and forest enterprises. Although most Exeter residents do not depend on agriculture or forestry in their livelihoods, the presence of farms and forests is very important to Exeter's sense of rural character and contribution. And that actually made its way into our vision statement. And the vision statement says, we promote economic viability of our farms and forest enterprises, recognizing their importance in both heritage and continued assets. The comprehensive plan goes on page 4, to say, develop and support long-term strategy of economic-based rural assets for agricultural uses and events. It is not done. The CPAC, which was a priority set from the community members in this town, listed as keeping rural spaces in farming as the number 1 or 2 priority within the comprehensive plan. That says a lot. That is your town saying you want to maintain farms. As an economic development tool, we also understand that the group pointed out that although residents are supportive of farming, agriculture is often financially precarious because farmland is typically prime land for real estate development. The price paid for development would be far more than what the farmer can generally make. And of course, as a future challenge, one of the biggest challenges that were listed in the comprehensive plan is the loss of farming to development. Then we asked our residents, what does rural mean to you? To further explore what the idea of rural means to Exeter residents, a survey was included questioning the respondents to choose 5 characteristics that make Exeter rural from this list of 14 common rural descriptors. The top 5 chosen were extensive open space, conservation lands, and preserving farmlands. So now that we know this is an asset that the town wants to preserve, how do we actually do it? Well, we went to the farming community and surveyed them. And these are some of the great quotes that I found. One person says, people in Exeter seem to support a rural agricultural way. The other one says that the capability of providing financially and employers for employees while operating in the same fashion is the least sustainable, but is often challenged in a farming community. Definitions of success for me, this is an individual farmer, would be the ability to produce a living wage for myself and my employees through the practice of farming and land, and ability to keep a farm from being sold to development. I think that's quite the statement that is struggling just to keep farms going. This is another great quote I found. Being able to comfortably pay your bills at the end of the day, not always feeling like a wolf is at your door, and you are up against the world when you are trying to do something new or innovative. As we move on into the comprehensive plan, we have more actionable items, and that would be within the concept of, we said, agricultural neighborhoods. And within this concept, other communities around the region have incorporated protected farmlands, food production space, farm service corridors, event space, and farm stand and market areas. This is all an attempt to increase the revenue to the farms so that they remain farms and not subject to development pressure. So on page 8.3 in the economic development section, it says Exeter economy supports rural character. Develop and support a long-term economic strategy that promotes rural assets such as farming. Promote the economic viability and sustainability of agriculture. Can't be as straightforward as that. Keep the farms to prevent developing. Agriculture, let our farmers farm. This is replete throughout the document. So as we moved to this farm overlay concept that was ultimately approved by this board, I just wanted to give you that background so you know how we got here. We went from the planning stages to an approved plan to actions from that plan. Now, as part of the approved plan is the eligibility section. So you can't apply this farm overlay district, but now you must be eligible. So let's get back to the memorandum to this honorable body as to whether or not this particular petition is eligible. So I write to this honorable body in a memo stating, dated September 16, 2025, pursuant to Article 7, Section 7A of the Exeter Code of Ordinances, which is titled Overlay Districts, and specifically Section 7A9 concerning eligibility, as well as Section 7B and 11, the following requirements are established: that the planning board shall conduct a comprehensive evaluation of applications for overlay district and provide an advisory opinion to this honorable body regarding the eligibility criteria. On August 12, 2025, the Exeter Planning Board convened to conduct and review the reference petition. The board evaluated the evidence and testimony presented during the proceedings, ultimately endorsing the facts and findings set forth in the accompanying memorandum from the town planner. The outcome was a vote that was unanimous approval, affirming that the application is in accordance with the eligibility requirements of the Farm Overlay District as delineated in section of the zoning ordinance 789. Notably, the Vice Chair, Robert Freya, made a motion endorsing the findings of the administrative officer, asserting that the applicant fulfills the eligibility criteria for designation of a farm overlay district, as stipulated in Article 7, Section 7A of the town zoning regulations. It is essential to emphasize that the findings of the administrative officer and the planning board solely determine the qualification of the application as a farm overlay district and do not indicate any endorsement or support of the planning board for the specific projects that may be proposed within the district that require further town council approval. Any use that is permitted only by the town council as prescribed by the farm overlay district are required to be submitted as a separate application to the planning board, where they will undergo a further comprehensive review by staff and board members. The applicant has presented conceptual plans of a slaughterhouse. Should that applicant decide to advance this project, it is necessary to submit a separate application that includes detailed plans addressing, but not limited to, dimensions of the building, the operational model, environmental safeguards, and the potential impact to surrounding neighborhoods. And I won't get too deep into that, but there are a lot of varied sizes and maybe some miscommunication as to what that looks like. We do know in the comprehensive plan that having an ability to have a market within the town is an economic development initiative that the town wants to go forward with. One more note before I end is that as part of the farm overlay district, we should understand that there are by right uses, and then there are limited uses, and then there are prohibited uses. And then there's one more, that would be only a use that this town council could authorize. And just quickly to go through the by right uses, I think we all can admit these are probably great uses for a farm if we know that this revenue source can keep a farm and not turn into high density development. And this is agribusiness retail sales, agricultural related crafts and gifts, agricultural technical tours, camping, picnicking, car shows, clay bird shooting, corn mazes, hay rides, crop sign ID program, cross-country skiing, direct agricultural sales, educational experience, family events. I think we've probably all been to a farm that had all these types of amenities. Additionally, farm stays with guests that stay overnight on the farm markets, farm stands, farm-to-table dinners of less than 50 people, very small, very manageable, free fishing, gardening, nursery tours, historical agriculture, horseback riding, on-farm sales, outdoor recreation, petting zoos, school tours, tours of all kinds, you-pick-em operations, wagon sleigh rides, wildlife viewing and photography, wineries, and tasting rooms. Now, those limited activities that maybe are a little bit more intense require minor land development, and that is through the planning board, and that looks for the dimensions, the parking, and all the ancillary parts that go into a development. And in that case, you have outdoor performances are limited to non-amplified acoustic acts and must only take place from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Farm-to-table dinners greater than 50 people, 1 per week. Holiday attractions, hunting, working dog trials, limited to size of the event. Multi-day tournaments, limited to no greater than 35 participants, very small. Sporting events, no greater than 10 teams or 35 participants. Wedding venues, limited to no greater than 150 people. Prohibitions, carnivals, concerts, exotic animal farm, fee hunting, game preserve, music festivals, no motorized events such as motocross, truck pulls, and monster truck exhibitions, off-road vehicles, tailgating parties. Those activities that may require further council approval, other agritourism and business events not otherwise classified. And special events, festival, fairs, wedding events of greater than 150 in terms of number of people in a commercial slaughterhouse. So that's the full gambit of what I call green light to yellow light to red light to we need additional approval from this body in a public hearing. Hopefully that answers your questions as to the planning board's recommendation, but I'm here all night if you'd like to have any questions.
Thank you very much. And if we can hear from John Pagliarini.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Town Council. Attorney John A. Pagliarini Jr., representing the applicant. This property has been a farm. It can be traced back to 1738, older than the United States of America. I will guess that the majority of persons in this room lived on this farm at one point. It was over 2,200 acres, so it was about 3.5 miles square. What remains of it is what my clients own today. 4 generations live on that farm today. And the intent of the farm is to keep it in the family forever. We've got children who are 2 to 5 years old that ride next to their father on the tractor while hay's being done. And this is a family farm in the truest sense. It is Exeter. Some will say that what we're proposing may affect water consumption in the area. That is misinformation. Agriculture would draw more water than some of these proposed farming agricultural uses on there. Some might say in the middle of this overlay district, development rights have been sold. Well, that's accurate. And we sold the development rights, and then you pay half of it to the government, and then you go out and you buy a $180,000 tractor, and then you try to buy the farm that abuts your farm, and you just keep expanding your farm, and you live with debt. That's the life of a farmer, is debt. Equipment is extraordinarily expensive. Running a farm is extremely expensive. Let's get into the actual process now. Your town planner gave you a good history. I'd like to zero in a little bit more. The farm overlay district began in May of last year. I want to say between the town council and the planning board, this might be my 8th, 9th, or 10th presentation. It's been a process. Each meeting was published. It's put on the Secretary of State's website. There's no surprises. It was advertised in the newspaper when the ordinance was adopted. But I'd like to read a section of the farm overlay district and maybe give clarification to some of the residents what exactly an overlay district is. We all know what zoning is. Everybody's in an RU3 and RU4 zoning district. Well, right now, floating over the town of Exeter, by approval of the town council, is a farm overlay district. If you wanted to land on a particular property, you have this public hearing. You meet the eligibility requirements, and then it drops down, and the property is now subject to that farm overlay district. And as the town planner went through, there's green light, yellow light, red light on what you can and cannot do on the property. If you go to the actual zoning ordinance, which is the law of the land, and in order to be an adopted zoning ordinance, it has to meet what is called the consistency doctrine. When the town council approved it at the recommendation of the planning board, it had to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So the fact that it was adopted on its face means that it is consistent. And we don't have to meet that burden this evening because we're asking for the law of the land to be applied on our property. Section 7A1, background, says the Farm Overlay District Floating Zone, FOD, is designed as a floating zone intended to establish a framework that supports the development of both medium and large-scale agricultural enterprises. This district aims to facilitate the establishment of businesses that complement primary farming activities and generate supplemental revenue streams. The overarching objective aligns with the preservation of the town's farmlands as articulated in the Exeter 2044 Comprehensive Plan. The goal of the Farm District Floating Overlay Zone is to be broad enough to allow farmers to use their ingenuity to explore business ventures, yet restrictive enough that the character and primary purpose of the farm is preserved and the rural character of the town is protected. That's exactly where we are today. We're eligible for the Farm Overlay District, as are several other farms within the town, not the only one. There's 1 to 2 dozen farms that meet the criteria in this town. The planning board unanimously approved, as you heard the town planner, that we meet the eligibility criteria. Notice was properly sent for this evening's meeting to all property within 1,000 feet of the proposed FOD, and that's the entire 175 acres. Notice was also put in the newspaper 3 times for everybody else. There might be persons that say, well, I abut the farm, but I didn't get notice. Well, you're not within the FOD, you're within 1,000 feet of other portions of the farm. But you will get a notice via the newspaper. There's been a tremendous amount of disinformation on social media about this project. Most of it I won't get into because we're not going down the road of asking this council this evening for anything but the Farm Overlay District. Suffice to say, misinformation brought many people here this evening. The bottom line is the Farm Overlay District was approved by the town council. It's something we applied for. The planning board found us eligible. None of the uses that we're proposing for that require special permission are being heard. That's not happening this evening. Based on the zoning ordinance, consistency with the comprehensive plan, and the planning board's eligibility, we meet the criteria. I also went through the comprehensive plan and would like to submit as applicant's exhibit 1 sections of the comprehensive plan, some of them like 12.2 Bill read, but just for the formal record, if I may approach. I'd like to mark this as applicant's exhibit 1, which is excerpts from the Exeter 2024, technically 2044 with 20-year vision, comprehensive plan showing that farming is desirous of the town. You folks did a really good job on your comprehensive plan. In a prior life, I was a West Greenwich town planner, and we tried similarly to preserve the rural character of a small town. You folks really did, and the overlay district is a byproduct of your comprehensive plan. It's an example to every other municipality when you set a goal and then a policy how to achieve that goal and an implementation action on how to achieve that policy, you checked it off. The town did well. Based on the planning board decision, the consistency doctrine, the applicant respectfully requests approval that the farm overlay district application be approved this evening. Thank you. I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions on the council? Okay, we do have quite a few people signed up. Okay. The lighting here is terrible. Beth Brown? Beth Brown? And Beth, can you please state your address also?
I'm Beth Brown. I live at 60 Whispering Pine Lane, Deerbrook. First, I'd like to just say that we in Deerbrook were never notified of this, and I know it was said that it was in the newspaper, and we are not 1,000 feet from the property. I would think because we abut Mail Road, that we would have been notified by mail at least, in a tax bill or fire bill, you know, something like that, because this does affect us. We just went through the whole process of the solar farm for almost 2 years with 18-wheelers. We were told that that was a country road, so be it. I just found out personally about this project a couple weeks ago during a neighborhood app that I found. And I did some research, more so on water quality, because we have well water from the aquifer. So where it is, it's downhill to us. And the more and more I researched it, it didn't sound very good. Now, another aspect was that we were told it was a wedding venue going to be out there. Then I find out it's a slaughterhouse. Well, that is two different things. So I just put a little something together. Should the zoning code be changed from farm residential to commercial as indicated in the farm overlay handout, then the potential for a slaughterhouse, for example, may then be allowable. As a matter of public information, slaughterhouses...
Excuse me, but the slaughterhouse is not on this agenda. It's not part of the overlay district, and it's not, well, it can be, but it's not part of what they have applied for.
Okay, then the rest of this that's all pertaining to. That's the information that's out there, and this is why a lot of us are here. If in fact it is a slaughterhouse, it brings up a lot.
If you change the zoning code, then the potential exists, correct? That's what she's saying.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if somebody's gotta speak, they gotta come to the mic.
She has the floor.
That's true.
You're stopping her from...
She's my husband, he's my husband.
No, I'm just saying this does not, this application for an overlay district does not include a slaughterhouse.
Could it potentially be a slaughterhouse if you change this?
The code changes.
With the code changes,
Then that opens it up, right?
and then we can't do anything about it. I just want to bring attention, if in fact it does become a slaughterhouse. That's my big thing. Because I have researched all on the well water and what it can do.
So just let her finish reading.
May I?
Sure.
Houses are the source of contaminants into the drinking water, including urine, feces, nitrates, toxic algae, bacterial, viral chemicals such as E. coli, and chemical spills, ammonia, and PFAS, or forever chemicals that permeate our groundwater, leading to cancer, birth defects, etc. Once into our drinking water, these chemicals can never be eliminated. In addition to major health concerns, we also be facing animal, truck, and traffic noise and pollution. In summary, numerous slaughterhouses have become Superfund cleanup sites across the country, and yet here we are considering a variance to zoning codes, potentially allowing major degrading of our lives and environment. Slaughterhouses should not fall under the farm umbrella. Thank you.
Next, Arthur Shaw.
Hello, my name is Arthur Shaw. I live at 339 Cockhouse Hill Road. My name is Arthur Shaw. I live at 339 Cockhouse Hill Road. I, along with my family, will be impacted by the proposed farm overlay development. This proposed overlay is located in a residential area and will impact the values and atmosphere of the surrounding houses. This location has multiple families and was attractive due to its quaint country location's atmosphere. This is reflected in the current RU zoning for the majority of the properties located here. This is not a section of Route 2 or Route 3, but a vibrant rural community. The RU designation does not allow for the development proposed in this location, hence the need for a farm overlay district. The current proposal of a slaughterhouse and wedding venue, as stated on the application, drastically changes the nature of the location and it opens it up to commercial development. While there is historical use of farming in this location, it has been in recent years the farming of flowers. The switch to a slaughterhouse is a drastic change in the nature of the farming in this location. While the wedding venue is not much of a concern to us, the slaughterhouse can cause significant disruption with commercial traffic, permeating smells, potential water runoff contamination, and potentially impact the wells that service all the properties. Nico LLC, the owner of the majority of the proposed overlay district, has already filed with the state in 2024 to be associated with the name Rhode beef. With this application also stating a slaughterhouse, the slaughterhouse seems to be the goal of this location. Additionally, outside of the limited information on the application that was available to view at the clerk's office and 2 boxed out locations on a plot map, there's been limited information to this proposed development. You are asking town members and property owners to approve change without clarity and specifics about the goals and nature of future usage and resulting impacts. At this time, I believe it would be, at this time, we believe, my family and me, we believe it would be irresponsible of the town council to approve this farm overlay district. I might also like to submit the actual applications to the state's secretary. That notes the,
And again, this is not an approval of a slaughterhouse.
Right, opening it up, open the door.
Paul Pisano.
Members of the council, my name is Paul Pisano. I live at 66 Whispering Pine Way in Exeter. I'm here because I heard that this overlay was going to be discussed regarding the preservation of farmland in Exeter. And I also heard that the primary reason for this was that one of the ancillary things was going to be a slaughterhouse. And the fact is that why are you shaking your head? Is that not a fact?
No, it's not.
What I'm saying is that if a slaughterhouse is one of the things that can be allowed in this particular overlay, then I urge this council not to get involved with that and to provide, and to do everything they can to prevent it. In the future, if you can guarantee to the people who are here this evening that you and the town of Exeter will not allow a slaughterhouse to be approved under this ordinance that would come in, then I don't think you would have any problem at all regarding the overlay. But the fact is that if that's the case, and you are sneakily using this in order to do the first step to approve a slaughterhouse, then I think that the voters of the town of Exeter will have something to say about it.
I'm going to have our town solicitor explain what this,
I get the impression that there's a fair bit of confusion. I think our town planner tried explaining before what the process looks like for this. Earlier this year, there was an ordinance amendment to create the farm overlay district. That was done months and months and months ago. That already exists. That already exists. What this application that's being heard tonight is about is whether, yes or no, whether this piece of property fits within the eligibility criteria under that ordinance. Those are the criteria that the council president read at the start. They're very simple things like, is the parcel over a certain size? Is it located in a certain place? Whether or not the applicant may come back in the future and apply to put in a slaughterhouse or a wedding venue or something else that's allowed under the farm overlay ordinance isn't in front of the council tonight.
Of course it's in front of the council.
No, sir, it is not.
If that is one of the allowable things under an overlay, that is absolutely involved with it.
No, and the reason for that is because if the council were, for example, to do what you're asking and say, because a slaughterhouse might in the future be allowed based on the existing zoning ordinance, deny an application that an applicant is eligible for and meets all of the eligibility requirements for, if they were to deny based on that, the applicant is going to file a lawsuit. They're still going to be able to get their thing, they're still going to get the overlay district in the end. It's going to cost everybody a bunch of tax money having to defend it in court.
That is absolutely not true. Well, just for your information, so that everybody understands it, I happen to be an attorney. I happen to do a lot of real estate work. I happen to do a lot of zoning. I happen to do a lot of things. However, the fact is that you know at this particular point that an application for a slaughterhouse is going to be filed. And the fact is that if you people do not eliminate that aspect of what can be approved under the overlay in the form of either a slaughterhouse or any other obnoxious thing, then I would, as a citizen of the town of Exeter, I would extremely plead that you do not pass this overlay for this particular piece of property. Thank you.
I'll do this. My name's Mel Gladys. I live at 270 Hog House Hill Road. I'm directly downhill from the proposed site of the thing that no one wants to mention this evening. I guess what I would like to say, in following the last gentleman's comments, from what you're telling us, the overlay is all good. It meets all the criteria, this and that. But obviously, everyone's biggest concern is the elephant in the room. Why not approve the overlay with a clause? Ixnay on the slaughterhouse. Nobody wants that. Nobody in the immediate area. Everybody that's 2 miles out doesn't care. If I was 2 miles out, I wouldn't care. But when you're downhill, I have 2 spring-fed ponds. It's scary as all hell. And every bit of research I've done on it just comes up not good for schools, not a good thing for our residential areas. It's all kinds of ramifications, and you know the drill, the smell, the rats, the bit. I'm not going to get into it. But anyone that lives that close is going to be scared. And it's just not a healthy thing for a neighborhood. And also the other part too, where you said the retail aspect of the overlay. You can now sell retail products, and let's just assume meat and produce and what have you. Now we've got a store in the neighborhood. Like, when does this end? This is a rural area, supposedly rural and farm and what have you. We do more entertaining on Hog House Hill Road than any other part of Exeter. We have the Leap Fest, we have the Tulip Fest, and now you want to put in a store and this and a skiing and my goodness, let's go for Disney World. Christy Seymour.
Okay, I'll take approach. Here's a couple of copies of what Earl has already signed, which is deed of development rights that he's already signed over this quite a few years ago. Here's,
Okay, I had a preparation, and I'm going to read it because it needs to be said. And I would like you to let me finish. This is very, very important, and you somehow seem like, oh, it's not a big deal. My name is Christy Seymour, and I live at 361 Hog House Hill Road in Exeter, directly across from the Sherman farm in question. I have lived on Hog House Hill Road for over 50 years. I actually lived at the Sherman homestead and took care of Lydia Sherman Brown's ponies in my 20s. I learned to farm and had a garden at the Sherman homestead. In case any of you didn't know, Lydia Sherman was the original owner of the Sherman farm. Lydia sold a portion of her property to Earl's grandfather, way back when Earl's grandfather built 2 ponds in the back section off of Glenrock Road. They were stocked with trout for fishing. He built a diving board on the banks as well for swimming. I am still a farmer and grow crops and flowers on Hog House Hill Road. I married into the Sherman family. I married Lydia's grandson. My 2 daughters are Shermans and 3 of my grandchildren are Shermans. I am emotionally tied to the legacy of this property and the impact it has on the community. I, along with most of you, moved to Exeter because of the country living and the tranquility that we found here. I feel I have been blessed to have lived here for over 50 years and still feel the peacefulness and serenity of the area. But I am highly concerned about this possible zoning change for the now Adams property. The tranquility will be in jeopardy. Finding a piece of property in Rhode Island with these qualifications is like finding a needle in a haystack, especially with the budding or adjacent Metcalf properties who have shown a like-minded harmony of the land. The thought of a slaughterhouse across the street from my home will most definitely affect the quality of life for myself, my family, and future generations as I am passing the property down to them. Our property values will plummet. Nobody would ever buy a home next to a disgusting slaughterhouse. Living near a slaughterhouse can be dangerous due to health risks from air and water pollution, including respiratory illnesses, bacteria, infections like MRSA, and irritants. It also negatively impacts the quality of life through strong odors, loud noise, and increased traffic. The strong, persistent odor from the slaughterhouse will make it impossible to enjoy outdoor spaces. Never mind talking about the biting flies that came along. We already have experienced the smell of the chicken manure and the flies from Earl's team spraying it in the spring for the tulip farm. We all absolutely love the tulip farm, and thought for once Earl got it right. But we all endured that because it was only for a month, and being part of a farm community, it is expected. Now you want us to all tolerate the smell of flies for 365 days. That's not okay. We didn't buy our properties with a ghastly slaughterhouse across the street. Where are our rights? We live here first. A slaughterhouse is considered a commercial or industrial entity. We are residential and farm zone area. We have zoning laws for this very purpose. Why are they not being implemented here? What is the sense of having zoning laws at all if you just ignore them when it's time to use them? Why is this application being presented to us, abutters, as a favorable recommendation from the planning board? Favorable to who? Certainly not favorable to us abutters. Do any of you live on Hog House Hill Road or even nearby? Who isn't doing their job correctly? This just doesn't smell right. I went up to the DM office in Providence to find out the correct information regarding to what Earl has already signed due to the property registrations that he had already agreed to. Earl received $3.5 million to be a good steward of the land. He isn't allowed to build or add any structures that weren't previously there. He's already signed this and got the $3.5 million. He asked for permission to rebuild the barn, but never once told that he was planning to build a slaughterhouse. How convenient. Or is it just slipped his mind? I'm sure it did. Looks like someone is trying to double dip and find the loophole so he really doesn't have to follow the deed to development rights to the T. I guess $3.5 million wasn't enough for him. Earl or his minions on Facebook has stated that they just want a little building, not a big 10,000 square foot building, and that we should not get our panties all in a wad. So you just want to pollute the land a little? It's kind of like I'm just a little pregnant, right? There are no real plans, just ideas being thrown around. This will impact the entire town, and the lack of real responsibility here is alarming. If this is so important to Earl, why wasn't he even here at the last meeting? Is Earl here?
Yeah, he's up there.
Okay, I haven't seen him in a long time. According to the deed to development rights, signed by Mylan Earl Adams and Susan L. Adams on December 8, 2017, it states that the premises shall not be converted to non-agricultural use. Continuing along, it states, the grantor is willing to devote the premises to agricultural production and to restrict the use of the premises according to terms and conditions hereinafter set forth. Whereas the Rhode Island Assembly has provided for the use of conservation restrictions to reserve land in perpetuity for farming and agricultural uses. Whereas the parties here to wish to avail themselves for the provision of said law governing conservation restrictions, including in the document of deeds to development rights, Exit B states, no refuse, trash, vehicles, bodies, or body parts, rubbish, debris, junk, waste, radioactive, or hazardous waste, or other substance or material whatsoever not normally used in accepted agricultural practices shall be placed, stored, dumped, or permitted to remain on the premises. The definition of refuse, all solid waste of a community, including garbage, ash, rubbish, dead animals, discarded animals, street cleaning, and solid market and industrial waste. I don't know about you, but the last time I checked, the slaughterhouse main production creates dead animals. Why would this not be a direct violation of Exeter B? It also states on B, no use shall be made of the premises, and no activity thereon shall be permitted, which is or may be inconsistent with the intent of this grant, being the perpetual protection and preservation of agricultural lands. No activity, including but not limited to drainage or flood control activities, shall be carried on which is detrimental to the actual or potential agricultural use of the premises or detrimental to water conservation, soil conservation, or good agricultural or forestry management practices. After reading this portion of B, a slaughterhouse would most definitely be a violation of this clause because slaughterhouses are a key source of water pollution and environmental degradation. Laws regulating the facilities are weak and poorly enforced. For the animals killed in the process, the workers putting body and limb on the line, and environmental health and safety of neighboring communities. From direct disposal of pollutants and toxic runoff and water uses, slaughterhouses are significantly impairing North American rivers, streams, and further endangering aquatic wildlife. The steady increase in meats production and slaughter facility means increase in farms to health of watersheds and wildlife. Sherman Brook goes from north to south, and it runs directly through my property and into Earl's property. It would directly be impacted negatively by the large runoff from the slaughtering of the animals. Sherman Brook feeds directly into the Queens River watershed. All of that water will be affected directly from the disposal of the toxic pollutants. The average water uses for slaughtering cattle is at least 150 to 450 gallons per animal. In 2018, slaughterhouses released over 55 million pounds of toxic substance into waterways. Slaughterhouses' wastewater can contain antibiotic-resistant strains of E. coli, fueling the spread of antibiotic-resistant bacteria. More than 60% of the waterways that suffer from the pollutants of these slaughterhouses are too polluted for drinking, swimming, and fishing. All of Exeter and neighboring communities are on wells. Where do we go get our water when all our wells are contaminated because this town council and zoning inspector approved the farm overlay? Who pays for the cleanup of the wells? Who pays for the environmental damage to Queens River watershed? When every neighboring town well owners sues the town of Exeter, who's going to pay that? Is the Adams family going to pay? Why would any town council member even consider a slaughterhouse anywhere in the entire town when the whole town is on well water? What are you guys thinking? This entire time I haven't heard one mention of our pristine underground aquifer that the entire town lives off. lives off of. When we were all discussing solar farms, that's all I heard, was what about the underground aquifer? Why are we all not talking or concerned about it now? Even if you put this slaughterhouse on Route 2 or Route 3, it will still affect the nearby wells and underground aquifer. If this is approved, it will be too late. The Sherman Brook will be toxic, our wells will be undrinkable, and nobody will be able to sell their properties because of poor zoning enforcement. The underground aquifer will be contaminated, and our superior quality of water in Exeter and the legacy of Exeter will be forever blemished. We will have a reputation similar to that of Johnston with the Stone landfill. Dear Exeter Town Council, you have been blessed to be the stewards of Exeter. Please do your job for the good of all the people in the town, not just for a select few who seem to think their wants and needs are more important than the majority of the other Exeter residents. We're supposed to be living in harmony. We're supposed to be living in a democracy. If you guys think this is such a great idea, we can put it on your land or right across the street from where you live in Exeter. Thank you.
David, can you say that?
Well, I'm Dave Lucinda. Live on Hot House, 383 Hot House Hill Road. I've been living there for 40 years. If this farm overlay opens the door for a slaughterhouse, then I'm against it. And I think most of the people that live on Hot House are against it too. It impacts the whole road. Thanks.
Thank you. Sharice Sadker? Sherry Fraza?
Good evening. My name is Sherry Fraser. I live at 341 Garden Road. My property actually abuts where Wicked Tulips was, which was wonderful seeing those flowers. So I have been at my home for over 32 years. We own Exeter for its beauty and its peace. The only light we want to see is from the sun and the moon. The only sound we want to hear are the birds and the coyotes howling. It is beautiful. Frankly, I don't know how we even got this far. There are certain eligibility requirements that they seem to have made, but one of them, I understand, is that the property must front a town or state arterial road, which Hot House Hill is absolutely not. It's a residential back road. It's not an arterial road. So people feel safe walking around these roads. There are people out jogging, walking their dogs faithfully every single day. They're not worried about getting run over by traffic. It's very peaceful out here. Another is at least 5 years of agricultural use and 10,000 annual farm income, verified via an IRS Schedule F. So if you help manage or operate the farm, that's material participation, and you need to report that on a Schedule F. If he was merely a rent collector, he should have filed a Schedule E. So I don't know what he filed, but that's my concern. She said a lot, so she really hit a lot of things. So initially, slaughterhouses were listed as prohibited within Exeter's proposed farm and forest overlay. After public hearings, Exeter Town Council revised the plan to allow commercial slaughterhouses, but only on a conditional basis requiring town council approval. That means in Exeter, you can establish a slaughterhouse within the overlay if you secure town council approval and meet any additional overlay specific criteria. So these meetings began in June of 2025, and in August of 2025, concerns were raised regarding notice to residents who abut the property and discussed whether to have a map overlay or to set up a floating overlay zone. So my property is right there. I didn't get notified until mid-November. Okay, so I don't understand that. Nobody reads the paper anymore. I don't know how you're supposed to put that out there, but I believe we are supposed to be notified. It's, you know, something that's, we're right there. Okay? So amendments were introduced in August, and that included commercial slaughterhouses, again, used to require separate town council approval. We all know the detrimental living near a slaughterhouse. People should not live near a slaughterhouse. It's detrimental to everything. I beg the town council to remove this from consideration. Please do not destroy the peace and the beauty of Exeter. Thank you.
Joseph Carr? Dan Carr? Yeah.
Good evening, my name is Joe Campbell, the 8 Lancelot Court, Richmond, Rhode Island. Although I'm not a resident of Exeter, I believe that the overlay is it's actually right across the street from my property. The close proximity to this farm, whatever they choose to do, and I did read some of the 2044 vision for Exeter, and I do understand that most of his property does seem to fall under what would be allowed as a farm overlay. My problem with it is actually with the original definition of a farm overlay or the setbacks that, and forgive me, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a great speaker, but I believe that the problem is actually within the actual farm overlay. You're only notifying people of a 1,000-foot radius. A 1,000-foot radius is nothing. I mean, our state is very small to begin with, but I mean, honestly, 1,000 feet, that doesn't really hit a lot. On your own maps, you take a look at the properties in that area. There aren't a lot of residential properties in that 1,000-foot area. Maybe everybody here mostly is from that. So maybe you've got 50, 100 people. Go out a little bit further. You have the whole development that's been down. I'm sure a lot of the townies, the guys that have been in Exeter for decades, probably hate the fact that that land was developed. And there was a lot of talk about, oh, well, we need to preserve this as a farmland to prevent all this development as if it's a bad thing. Well, it's only a bad thing if you're, depending on who you are. Now, Richmond and the corner that this lands on is such a close proximity to Richmond. I can't believe that none of the Richmond residents were notified of what the plan is. Now, I understand this is only on the farm overlay, and I get it for what he wants to do with this piece of property. But isn't there any consideration, isn't there any type of thing that, I understand some of the information that you read earlier was very specific about how many animals you could have on the property or what you could do with it. To me, I think that's a little bit, maybe it's a little bit vague. I think there should be, if you, it leaves too much room, and I think a lot of other people have already mentioned that already. It's kind of a gray area of what the intent of this property is to do. I think this should be, again, this is more of a problem with, and no, I know it's been said, if you say no offense, it means I'm offending you, but no offense to the town council, but I think there's been a problem with the actual way that it's been written up. If there's anything or a conceived notion, well, if you just say it's a farm overlay, well, it's kind of general, kind of gray of what we want to do with this. well, why hasn't it been written in the 2044 that you have to present what you've at least proposed use of that land is for? You just open say, oh, it's a farm overlay and I could do whatever. I don't think it's a good idea. So I think that it really falls on the town and how they originally wrote this up. I think there should be more specific information about what's its intent when you want to present as a farm overlay, which now I think it's a little bit too late. So as I admitted when I first started speaking, I believe that Mr. Adams probably has it within the right because he falls within all of these parameters, and these very educated men have been so eloquently spoken about how this fits in that point. But I think the problem is, one, too vague to have a farm overlay to just leave it up in the air, and I think the area that should be notified should be much greater, especially if you just step out and look at the large area of residential areas developed.
Oh, could you give Pat her address? She didn't get your address.
8 Lancelot Court, Richmond. And if you look at the overlay, how that drags over, it affects the properties across, it's a little cul-de-sac, right? As you go into the new development, which I know, a lot of the local farmers hated the fact that King Arthur and Lancelot and Camelot Estates was originally met a lot of angst about the development. So I know I'm one of those guys that took that property, but I've been living there now too, same thing for 24 years. And when I moved in, all the farming, as they said, that's the other problem that I thought of, is that it's listed as agricultural. Agricultural is different than ranching. So it should be specific what they want to do with that land. If when I first purchased the home, it was awesome to see all the farms that were there growing hay, flowers, corn, pumpkin patches. The sugar house that was right down the road that's further up the road on Gardner Road. Been there forever. It is a family time, a fun place to see. But there should be more distinguishing about what they plan to do with that property. I'm sorry if my thoughts were all over the place, but that's my thoughts, that's my 2 cents, so thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to confirm, I know that notice was sent to everyone within 1,000 feet, also people in other towns, Richmond. I just want to confirm that with John, right?
It was.
Okay, thank you.
When did they send the first notice?
3 weeks before.
Just a little clarity, if I may. Notice was sent, I believe the first public hearing, they went out in November to everybody within 1,000 feet, which is what the requirement of the ordinance is. The prior actions to develop the FOD, because it's a town-wide ordinance, did not require specific notice to individuals within any radius. That's why it was advertised in the newspaper, on the website, and in the Secretary of State, so that it goes to general circulation, not to individuals, because you can't just, when you're adopting it as an overlay over the entire town, you can't give notice to every single person in the town. You do it by mass meter, if you will, and that's why it was disseminated that way. So nobody was afforded the opportunity, and nobody was not given the opportunity for individual notice when the FOD was adopted by the council, because that's not the procedure that the General Assembly has laid out for the adoption of the zoning ordinance.
Thank you. Ida Ruiz. Ida Ruiz.
So, hello. It's not my name, it's the correct pronunciation.
Your address?
I'm sorry.
Your address for that.
Oh, 505 Mail Road, very nice. So, the correct pronunciation is Yvonne Rhodes, and with me, my lovely wife, Yarlin. We moved to Exeter in 2017, looking for this environment that works. Everybody that lives in Exeter knows exactly where people come here. Today was a very eye-opening day for me because the only notification that I truly received was a letter announcing of the first town hall meeting in December 5th. That's the first time that I actually read about, oh wait, they're trying to do a farming overlay, what is that? So I came to the January 20th meeting and it got rescheduled to today. And today I still didn't know what exactly does this mean to my property. And I'm not even in this overlay right here. I'm in the 1,000 feet, just a little sliver of my property. So that's where I am right now. The hearing everybody talk today has taught me that, well, we have a code that is not really very clear on what it allows and what it does not allow. It allows a lot of things. It may not be on the slaughterhouse, but if you look at all the paperwork that's been going around, then, you know, like 99% sure that there's going to be at least an attempt to put a slaughterhouse in here in Exeter. That is not great. And anybody here can tell me that this is a great idea, please raise your hand. Didn't think so. So I believe that everybody would agree that if we were to move forward with this, the best way to do so would be to add more details to this overlay ruling and what can and what cannot be built. And the first thing that we'll have to get out from this proposal is a slaughterhouse. Who wants a slaughterhouse in our neighborhood? Like, it's a no-brainer. Like, we don't want that here. Nobody would say that they want it. So why even consider it? Just strike it out. And by the way, strike out other types of farming that are harmful to our community. I mean, a tulip farm, sure, why not? But come on, slaughterhouses. This is beyond ridiculous. Come on, guys, we're better than this. That's all I have to say.
I see a Y and an R here. I have no idea.
It's, Yara, but she's with me.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, Hayden's fine. Oh, okay. Asa Davis.
I have 5 copies of 9 documents to submit, one for each council member, and as a secretary, if you want an email version, you can send it. Okay, so I wanted to start with a question first. How many people in here are vegetarians? Oh, sorry,
Asa Davis, 146 Beechwood Hill Trail in Exeter. I'm going to touch on some of what Bill said about the loss of open space in farmland, and I also am glad that I saw Gina and Rob here also, because I am going to talk a little bit about the planning board and some of the meetings that we had there. This hearing tonight is over an amendment to the zoning map. I think that's good. This is the right thing to do and the right way to do it. Whether this is approved or not, there are a lot of other neglected changes in the last 13 years since the last update. It's the zoning inspector's job to do this, plain as day in our ordinance. Morgan didn't take care of it even when notified, and some of the lawsuits on your second page of the agenda are because of that. You can represent a town's operations with a triangle. The base of the triangle is the tax base, and the height, or the peak, is the total taxes that it collects for the services that it needs to provide. The more potential sources, the wider the base and the more stable the triangle is. The more obligated services, the higher the peak and the more unstable it is. When a town grows, those things need to grow in proportion. Otherwise, the town gets vulnerable to economic shocks and financial shortfalls. Exeter's tax base is very narrow, almost exclusively residential. The cost for services it is obligated to provide grow with population, but the effect is worse than linear. This isn't just because of the schools, although that is the biggest part of the budget. Because the school population is dropping, the capacity is increasing, but the efficiency is getting worse. Earl's plan should widen the base and without changing the peak much, so that is a plus as long as he's an honest man and pays his taxes. In case you weren't aware, you paid for this. The town attorneys filed a motion with the Supreme Court to say the building permit fee being charged to applicants should be a secret. Obviously, I disagree, because by the state statute 38213, a public document is a public document regardless of whether there's litigation. The town's filing and my response are both included. The AG found the town violated APA 3 times and the Open Meetings Act twice. We're spending good town money on this. As a resident and taxpayer, I question if it's for a good cause. Most of these cases result from town officials not doing their job as required by state law or town ordinance. This includes the zoning map, the official street map, the 911 map. All those cases would go away and the legal expenses end if the town fixed the map. This is thousands of dollars. Instead, it drags on. We tried mediation again last month. It cost me $8,000 with one more bill still to come. I only had one lawyer. I think the town had two, so the town cost was probably higher. That money alone, spent on engineering, would probably have covered the cost of all the map updates, so those cases could have gotten dismissed. The mediation came out of the last soliciting project update. After my original one-house farm garage with solar project on 30 of my 109 acres got rejected by the planning board, I went back to the drawing board. The next proposal was Solicity, which had half the solar and a 120-unit housing project. We updated the new planning board last fall. I asked for that meeting because Fed and the utility deadlines were starting to expire. There was a clear preference from the board for the original plan, so that's how we wound up in mediation, but we couldn't get it across the finish line. When we started, I offered to go back to the original solar plan, scrapping the housing development and just doing one house, barn, and garage. That was a pretty clear message from the planning board that I got from the last meeting. We got something much different. The town wanted me to drop all the legal cases from the time Earth formed through the present and indemnify past and present town officials and the lawyers for ongoing bad behavior. That to me was unacceptable, because I know with all the past ethics cases, Matchcheck, Ellis, Patterson, Morgan, Millar, Mike, and Olivia DeFrancesco, like on the building permits case, the bad behavior continues. It violates multiple state laws. The town is still charging double, triple, or more, but it's allowed to charge for building permit fees by its own ordinance. I'm going to keep going because I'm going to get to the zoning questions that do affect Earl and the building permits that he is going to have to apply for. I'm going to speak a few more minutes. It's less than, more than halfway done. So, this has been going on for decades. The overcharges are over $750K as of the case filing and are still increasing. Ron knows this was wrong. He admitted it in the public meeting and told the council, but it's still happening. So far, he put more than $155K in his own pocket. The town should be on my side on this. Instead, it's paying for his legal defense fees. Actions speak louder than words. The planning board and council said they wanted solar instead of housing, but what the town really wanted is to let the bad guys off scot-free and keep on business as usual. Dropping the solar meant the housing count increases to gain the scale to make the economics work. On this ordinance that allowed the farm overlay district, I still don't like the 5-year requirement because that closes that off for me. My property did used to be a farm. You can see it on the aerial photographs, but it stopped before I bought it. That 5-year requirement means that I wouldn't be able to use a farm overlay on my district, on my property. And that really narrows the choices down, which is basically pretty much driving it towards a housing project. So on the plus side now, by dropping the solar on the Solicity project, I do have a clear path to approval. It's strange, but this seems to be what both the town and state want. In order to focus and sharpen your discussion for what follows, since the last update, we lost some of the federal incentives and the rest go away shortly. This is the last chance. I'm okay doing solar with one house, barn, and garage and dropping the map cases I originally listed, but there's only 6 days left. If the town admits the rejection in 2019 did not follow OMA, which is case 2019-0533, the rejection is nullified. Per that law, the master plan is approved as of March 2019. The core forest thing, law passed statewide, doesn't apply, and I can still do the solar with one house, barn, and garage. But that ends in 6 days. The master plan process does not need to start over. I think Sylvia is wrong about the due temporal application, just like with the injunction and the public records and open meeting cases. If you're worried about legal risk, I would be willing to indemnify the town over new actions from third parties deriving from a master plan approval.
I don't see how this has anything to do with the overlay.
This is still a public hearing, and I've got 2 more paragraphs. And I do come back to talk about it.
Public hearing about the overlay district.
Yep. So I will invite the council, if you would like. I will stick around during the executive session if you'd like to talk about this. I'll answer any questions you want. I'll leave whenever you want. There is precedent for that. Per the charter, and last April, you did have an exec session meeting with residents on Estate Drive, specifically over the injunction. But coming back to this question about the overlay district, and a question I have now for Bill DePasquale, if this property gets approved for a farm overlay district, can that regulation get changed to eliminate the ability to have a slaughterhouse? That seems to be the biggest issue that most people have in their minds here.
I'm just only reading the ordinance, and the ordinance did go to a public hearing, and the town council did approve the ordinance, and I would just reference the ordinance. The ordinance specifically talks about eligibility criteria, and that's all we're here for tonight. There is a prohibition on slaughterhouses, but anyone has an ability, if you do have an FOD, to come back for a public hearing for that. That's in the actual ordinance. The ordinance is not here for public comment. It's only for eligibility. So we actually, within the four corners of a piece of paper under the eligibility. That is the answer, whether people like it or not.
Thank you.
So that I don't think that answered my question. My question is still, can the ordinance be changed? And I think the answer is that we'll wind up going through the council to do that.
The ordinance can be changed at any point in time. It's the town council's prerogative to change anything within the code of ordinances as specified within the Appendix A or Appendix B, any provision, but it has to go to a public hearing. And we would be back here doing the same thing on whatever provision wanted to be changed, including anything within the code of ordinance that exists. So that's the answer. It can change any ordinance at any time, but it has to go through the public process, has to have public hearings, just like we're doing tonight. I think we're mixing up what the FOD was in terms of approval with the limited eligibility criteria that's applied by the actual ordinance that's on the books.
Okay, so I think I'm clear on that. In order to focus and sharpen the discussion for what does follow, next week I am scheduled to talk to the planning board again this coming Monday. It is on the preliminary plans that I just gave you. And notice there is no master plan because in effect, based on the way housing works, there is no master plan approval anymore for housing projects. On the vegetarian question, I think when we moved to Exeter 54 years ago, I moved here because we didn't really have a choice. My parents were going, I was going with them. When I came to Exeter, Hog House Hill Road had that name because I think it was hog processing. I think the building was still there when I was a kid. I don't think it's there.
No, it was not.
No?
I lived there, no.
Okay, well, I stand possibly corrected. I do believe that our town has a history of liking certain things but wanting others to pay for it. We depend on the state police for emergency. We want the cell phones and internet, but we don't want to generate the electricity they run on. In this case, civilization has trade-offs. When an economy shrinks, everybody suffers. There was an announcement just today that Tyson's shutting 2 meatpacking plants and laying off thousands. I don't envy you in making these decisions. That's it. Thank you.
Thank
Wish
you.
you the best of luck.
That's everyone who signs up.
I do.
So I'm going to.
I do. Can I speak?
Yes.
Hope I can make it up to, okay?
10 Natalie, 34 Nelson Drive in Exeter. I don't have any dog in this fight, one way or the other. The one thing I want to say is that we have laws and we have ordinances and we have law of orders. And apparently tonight, excuse me, we're taking away from Mr. Adams his rights. The right that people don't want a slaughterhouse near them is acceptable. However, this is not what it's about. People are saying he's going to do this, he's going to do that. There's been a lot of misinformation. The part about that the property rights were sold, well, the property he's talking about are not included in there. Another thing the lady said was that her water was going to be polluted. Well, the water goes from her house to his property. And the right thing to do is to look at the ordinance that we're trying to correct. The individuals, and I appreciate them not wanting to have that near their house, but that's not the issue tonight. That's a whole other issue. They will have the option to come back if he presents that, but they don't have the option to turn around and deny him his rights. The families own that land. It's been land for years. They're trying to develop it. If you don't want it there, then when he puts in that petition, you come back and you vote against it. But not now. Don't go by the internet and all the stuff that says it. Give the man the right to what he wants. And then if you disagree with what he wants, then you turn around and you come back here. You don't put out information that's not correct. And I do agree with the fact that it could have been presented better. But give him the chance, because he owns the land, the families own the land. If you disagree with them, come back later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob Correa, 205 New Road. I'm Vice Chairman of the Planning Board. And Mr. Silva, you started getting to the process before. I think it would help people if you clarify the process going forward. should Mr. Adams come back with an application for a slaughterhouse, it would be referred to the planning board, where we would have, and it would be a detailed application of the plan itself, the building size, the operation, plus detailed engineering reports on pollution controls, water, and everything else, traffic studies. And we would thoroughly vet that. And I don't think people realize that anything down the road would be an application that would be thoroughly vetted before coming back to you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you say it better than I did?
I think you said it pretty well.
Okay.
I think that's exactly right. The planning board's going to have an opportunity to evaluate every part of this, suits and us, the whole thing, and make a recommendation to the council as far as approving the use and have an approval role itself. And that's all stuff that would be subsequent to filing an application if one is filed for a slaughterhouse. And we can, predict what we think somebody's going to do, but none of that is what we're here to talk about ultimately tonight.
And again, no one can make an informed opinion until the engineering reports come in, and then we have them peer reviewed and, resolve any differences in them, and then can hear from the public during that process. So we all need to be educated on this process, because we do not have a slaughterhouse in Exeter. I don't think there's one in Rhode, I don't know if there's one in New England, but I don't know anything about slaughterhouses. So I'm looking forward to getting that information so we can review it.
And the planning board process is not at all a rubber stamp, and that's important for everybody to know as well.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, clarification?
Christopher DeVito, an attorney. I represent folks in own land here in Exeter. Just for clarification, so there are some uses that are as of right, correct? That doesn't have to go through the planning board or the town council, correct? Then there's a middle.
Bill listed those at the beginning.
Yeah, no, I got the ordinance here in front of me. Then there's that middle tier group that requires planning board review and approval. Then there's the third tier, probably the most intensive use, which requires both first planning board, then town council approval, correct? So the first two tiers don't require town council approval. In fact, the first one is probably by the by Bill, do the swap, the plan, right? Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. And you are right. None of the uses that might come to fruition are here tonight for review or approval. There will be detailed plans, engineering plans, traffic analyses. And I urge all you folks out here, because I do represent a lot of neighborhood groups, won't be representing anybody here, that the applicant will do what he has to do, bring forth experts. So if you say there's going to be traffic, the planning board and the town council can't accept your testimony. You're not experts in traffic. You can't say that it's going to contaminate your water because you're not experts in hydrology.
Amen.
You've got to fight fire with fire, which means that if your house is your most valuable investment, don't be a penny wise and pound foolish. It's going to cost you thousands of dollars to retain a good attorney and a team of experts to advocate for your position. So if your house is worth $300,000, pony up $1,000. You've got 50 people there, that's what? You do the math, because it's going to cost you easily that amount of money for an attorney and experts to bring forth your case so that they can rely on reliable, credible evidence. Don't think you're going to come up here and say, oh, the sky's going to fall. They can't take that. Legally, they cannot do that. They have to make a decision, and not just them. That's how it works, zoning board, all these services. So, unless you know what's going to be proposed, hold your fire, but be prepared, get ready in advance to bring up to gather up your war chest. Don't be passing the hat the day before. It doesn't work. I, for one, won't take a client like that, and neither will the expert. So, save everybody time, because that's who really should be testifying to the town council, the planning board. anecdotal stuff from people that your eyes glaze over, unfortunately.
Well, I tried to
Thank
say.
you.
That, you're absolutely right. However, everyone.
We can't have conversations. This is not.
Everybody
It's not
has,
an open forum, sir.
everybody has a right to come.
You need to respect the council.
Everybody
You need
does
to
have-
respect, excuse me, sir. You need to respect the council up here, not an open forum with people yelling out.
Yeah, everybody does have a right to come and speak. I'm trying to help you and help the decision makers. And I'm agnostic as to what happens right now, but I don't know what's gonna happen. But I'm trying to tell you how the process works. Most people don't know, because why would you know? I had a conversation with some people up there. I told them exactly what was gonna happen tonight. We're gonna vote on the designation of this land being the FOD. That's it. And the town council president tried to prevent you from going on about this. She can't. They can't stop you. The zoning ordinance is in place, unless they want to go back and amend it. Bill says they possibly could. But there might be some other place in Exeter that a slaughterhouse or a wedding venue with amplified music might be most suitable. I think we have that, right, in Exeter? Jerry Zavella? Chicken? Anymore?
I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing. You had already spoken before.
Well, I would like the opportunity to clarify.
So I didn't get here in time. Kim Brookshaw from Holville Road. And last time I was present at one of these meetings, was the same thing. We were fighting the shoppers against their tomato farm. One truck a day on Route 2, and now we have the same people here. You guys don't want traffic on Mail Road, you're afraid about all these things. What are we going to do with how you put houses in? Put houses in on there and see what it does to your school district. Because I'm very closely tied to that. You do back all you want, I don't care. Why is this town against farmers? This town council ought to do the right thing and do this farming overlay. We should be supporting rural Exeter and say, you people up here, I'm not talking to you, I'm not talking to you. Instead of fighting everybody and everything, you're worried about all this. The town council should do the right thing and support local farmers and keep Exeter rural. If not, what's stopping these people from going to the state? And the state comes in and you have no say, and they're gonna dump 200 houses in there. That's okay for you guys, and that's gonna help out your traffic and your situation? This is nuts. This is crazy. We should be supporting town council, and those who go up for election, not this year, and in 2 years, make the right decision and support local farmers, and keep this open space, this a positive thing for the town. Listen to these few people, because people. Thank you for your time, I hope you guys really make the right decision, and don't let these few people sway you in the wrong way.
Let him sway you.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion now to close the public hearing. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
My heart was in it.
I could tell. I could hardly speak. I could tell you did good. Are we like?
Right, go.
LLC, LLC, Glenrock Realty, LLC.
Your phone's on. Got a light.
We're having a meeting right now. You like to talk, can you go out?
Oh, is that what it is?
'Cause I can't.
This meeting was decided before anybody even showed up.
Do that, okay? No, you can't.
Sold this for free.
When you're done, he's gonna hand
He
it.
already sold his rights to development.
I know that.
He already got the James, no way. Don't understand it. Like I said, you get to
Where are we?
you sell it. $3.5 million. You get $3.5 million, and you get to sell it again.
I understand what you're saying. The land that he got the money for was not this particular parcel.
No, he took the 3.5 and bought this land.
Right.
So where is the 3.5? Where is the land that he?
It comes from Gardner Road and goes clear over
It's
to.
all the ones surrounding his house.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, right across, all the way through there, that's all, you know, his house, all that.
Well, he took $3.5 million and also bought McDonald's farm.
Yeah, it was actually 3.34 million.
Yes. He did good there, thank
Bet you guys all had a good Christmas.
I'm sure their pockets are lined. Trust Rhode Island. Well, I need to go back to the Midwest.
You should all be ashamed to take treat a taxpayer.
Where I'm from. All about farming.
Where are you from?
Oklahoma.
Oh, nice.
But, I mean, I'm all about farming. They're not talking about farming.
They took it off the map and left.
Want to say goodbye?